So chapter 4 describes the coming kingdom. Now look at verse 8 of chapter 4. In verse 8, he says, "And you, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, to you it shall come," this kingdom, "even the former dominion shall come, the kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem." So verse 8 tells us that this kingdom of Messiah, this kingdom of Jesus Christ, will come, it says, to the tower of the flock. Now, what's that? Well, the Hebrew is Migdal Eder, the tower of the flock. Shepherds who watched over a large flock of sheep would build a tower. And that tower, they'd build the tower out in the field where their sheep grazed, and that tower provided the shepherds a high vantage point where they could watch over their large flock. It also provided them a place to sleep at night when they were out in the field with their sheep at night. I have a picture of a tower for you, if you want to bring the picture up for me. This is a modern tower in Israel today. So this is a tower of the flock that shepherds would build out in their field so they could go up to the top and they could see, watch their sheep, make sure there's no predators or none of the sheep are wandering off. And then downstairs in the bottom of it, they could sleep in there at night just to get out of the elements, out of the weather. So look at verse 8 again. This is important. So the kingdom will come to the tower of the flock. That's a pretty unusual prophecy. Now, I know that Easter is coming in a few weeks, but I want you to think of the Christmas story for a few moments. When Jesus was born, to whom was his birth announcement made? Shepherds. And where were the shepherds? Living out in the field, watching their flock by night. Luke chapter 2, verse 8 says they were living out in the field. Well, where would shepherds live out in the field at night? Well, probably the tower of the flock is where they would be living at night. If not in the tower of the flock, they were at least living in the area near the tower of the flock. When the angel appeared to them to announce the birth of Jesus Christ. So the announcement of the birth of the King of the Jews was first made to shepherds who lived in the fields around Bethlehem, where the tower of the flock would be located. The kingdom came to the tower of the flock, just as Micah said in chapter 4, verse 8. Now, Alfred Edersheim is a guy that maybe you've heard of. In his classic work on the life of Jesus Christ, he points out that the shepherds who raised the sheep in the fields around Bethlehem were not ordinary shepherds. And they didn't raise ordinary sheep. The shepherds in the fields around Bethlehem, they raised sheep specifically for sacrifice in the temple in Jerusalem. So it's even more fitting that the announcement of the birth of Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world, was first made to the shepherds who raised the sheep for sacrifice in the temple in Jerusalem. And that announcement came in the field where the sacrificial sheep were kept. And so chapter 4 tells us about this coming kingdom, and now chapter 5 tells us about the coming king, where we pick it up tonight. Look at verse 1. "Now gather yourself in troops, O daughter of troops. He has laid siege against us. They will strike the judge of Israel with a rod on the cheek." Now, with Bible prophecy, quite often there is what is called the near and the far of prophecy. That is, Bible prophecy often has a near fulfillment and a far fulfillment, or an immediate fulfillment and a greater fulfillment in the future. The near fulfillment of verse 1 was with King Zedekiah. King Zedekiah was the last king of Judah before the Babylonians conquered Judah and took them into captivity. Zedekiah was the last king. This describes the humiliation that King Zedekiah experienced at the hands of the Babylonians. they will strike the judge, that would be King Zedekiah, the judge of Israel, with a rod on the cheek, meaning Zedekiah will be defenseless against the Babylonians and humiliated. The idea here is that he won't even be able to raise his hands to protect his face from a blow. Now, this is described for us in 2 Kings chapter 25, if you want to turn there with me. 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 1. It says, "Now it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and all his army came against Jerusalem and encamped against it. And they built a siege wall against it all around. And so the city was besieged until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. By the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine had become so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then the city wall was broken through, and all the men of war fled at night by way of the gate between two walls, which was by the king's garden, even though the Chaldeans were still encamped all around against the city." So all of the army that's in Jerusalem flees, and the king, that would be King Zedekiah, went by way of the plain. So he flees too, but the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king, and they overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All his army was scattered from him. And so the king and his family are alone. They don't have any military to protect them. Look at verse 6. "And so they took the king, Zedekiah, and brought him up to the king of Babylon," that would be Nebuchadnezzar, "at Riblah, and they pronounced judgment on him." Look what it says. "Then they killed the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and they put out the eyes of Zedekiah, bound him with bronze fetters, and took him to Babylon, so that the last thing that Zedekiah saw was the execution of his own sons."